Good day, Merry Meet. My name is Glennis. I'm the Witch of Whitetail Hollow. If you have just found my channel, well, gosh, hi! I hope you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and join us. And if you're returning, well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. And I just love reading you guys' comments. It means so much to me, so thank you, absolutely. So we are on day 6 of the October Pagan Vlog Challenge. The subject today is ghosts, and I'm not going to say that I am an authority on ghosts, although I think that I've probably had more than my share of ghosts in my life. And again, like I said in yesterday's video, as far as divination is concerned, this goes back to when I was a very young child. My mom, of course, this was in the very early 60s. My mom thought it was a great idea to buy my sister and myself a Ouija board. So can you imagine the times that my sister and I had working a Ouija board? And of course she would have friends for sleepovers and things like that, and we'd all participate, and it was good scary fun, you know, just good scary fun. But so yeah, those were good times. And it would probably be quicker and easier for me to tell you which spirits, because I don't really like to call them ghosts. You know, I want to call them spirits, because in my mind, that's what they are. It is, in essence, the spirit of the person whose body, unfortunately, is gone. But their spirit remains, absolutely. And if you have any nanosecond of a doubt, please, just take my word for it. They are here. They are all around us. And it's just something that I've learned to embrace and I've come to accept. It's been a part of my life, like I said, forever and ever. Like I said, it's actually easier for me to tell you what family member, what loved one that hasn't come back to me. And that was, unfortunately, that was my grandmother. The one person I wanted so badly to make her presence known in some fashion. I never got anything. I got nothing. I got zero. And so I don't know whether it was that she was so happy that her body had, you know, gone, and she had gone on to the next chapter. I don't know. I'm sure she wasn't mad at me, because I was one of the last few people to actually speak to her before she passed. So I'd like to think that she was just so thrilled, and she was so happy to be back with her husband of 60 plus years, that she said, you guys are good. But now I have shared my mother's ghost story with you guys, and that's something that there was other people involved in the situation. And I'm so glad it was, because, well, you know, but, and I will share when the time is right, I will share my father's story with you. It's probably one of the more dramatic stories that I have to share, because as it turns out, when I had an experience when I was working in a home that I was not familiar with, and again, I've shared this story with you guys before on a video here, but I sat at my parents' house. That's when I was living at my hometown at the time, and my mom and dad and I told them this story, because I mean, it was just so vivid. It was just almost unbelievable. And I told my parents the story exactly like I told you guys. And my dad was the one that looked at me and he said, well, what were you afraid of? They're not going to hurt you. And to me, that was so unusual to hear him say, because he was so incredibly conservative, and so one of those people that you would think, you know, he's not going to buy into spirits, he's not going to buy into ghosts. But I think probably, as it turns out, he was probably more open-minded than my mom ever dreamt of being. But I think after my dad passed and my mom was still living in the same house alone, I think she probably got a good taste of what I have been experiencing my whole life, because she would relay some of that to me. And again, I will tell you that when the time is right. But look, make no mistake, they are around us. Maybe not all the time, but the spirits are definitely there. And it's up to you and up to me, but it's up to you to honor their memory. If you feel maybe a little bit bothered by, especially a family member that is coming into your house, maybe remember some of the things that they liked in life. Offer them, a glass of wine just before you leave for the day for the work. Which is, I know it sounds kind of odd, but leave them an offering. Pour a glass of wine, pour a glass of whiskey, set it on the dining room table, the counter, whatever, and or wherever you most feel their presence, and say, hey grandma, it's cool, I'm going to work. Here, have a glass of wine while I'm gone or something. But, I have to warn you ahead of time, doing so, you're going to make them feel very, very comfortable, and you are going to encourage them to stay. I have never encouraged any spirits that have come to me, whether it be a family member or just someone that I've been friends with and know and love, or just a random spirit that I don't know, and I'm thinking, what are you doing here, But I've never encouraged them to stay. I've never left an offering saying, yeah, just hang out, chill, because honestly, I don't want them to stay. And it's not because I don't love them, and it's not because they make me feel uncomfortable. It's because they've earned how they've gone on. They need to go on and to enjoy what they have, and don't bog themselves down with me and my mundane tasks here and peeking over my shoulder and things like that. I frankly don't need it. I don't want it. And so I acknowledge a bit their presence. But then as soon as I acknowledge their presence, I let them know, okay, you can carry forward, whether it be a family member, a friend, a demon, or whatever. I acknowledge your presence, but you have to go, because I don't want to deal with walking around the corner, feeling you, seeing you, hearing you, smelling you, whatever it is. It's just, I have to have my boundaries. And so that's how I have done it all of my life, is I acknowledge that I've seen you, I've acknowledged that you're here, but go. I love you, but go. And go forward. And that was how I treated my father when he came back. Of course, I will share that with you. And the marvelous thing about when my dad came back and my experiences there, which happened over several days, is I wasn't the only one in the house that experienced it. So I'm not crazy. I haven't lost it, not yet anyway. But again, those are just a few of my experiences, and going back a little bit, I did have the inn, and the inn was built in 1882. So again, it had probably a very, very long history of people living and passing and living and passing. And there was one that just wouldn't leave and made its presence known. Now, when I flew across Canada to look at several different properties in Nova Scotia, this house wasn't particularly on my radar, simply because it wasn't really in my budget. But I went ahead and I humored the realtor, and I went ahead and looked and went through it. And as it turns out, it of course was the one I bought, of course. But going through the house, before I even made an offer on it, it dawned on me much later, years later, And I wondered why the owners had the light on in the dining room. There's a perpetual light burning in the dining room. And I couldn't understand, and I said, well, whatever, right? And so I move in, and I get things going, and the business is going, and it became pretty clear to me why the owners kept a light going in the dining room. Now, where the dining room was, of course, the dining room's there, and then back here is the kitchen where I would very often, always working, but there was like a little vestibule, and then there was a bathroom this way that separated the kitchen from the dining room. And then from the dining room up ahead was the foyer. So I could stand at the kitchen counter where I'm prepping with, you know, a series of several doors open and look into the dining room and straight to the foyer. So as I'm, you know, chopping and cooking, doing prep, I can see out of the corner of my eye, and this is in the dining room, and I'm seeing something move. There's no one moving in the house. There's no one in the house. I had no pets, of course, but there's something. It wasn't a figure. It was just like a cloud, a dark cloud. I know that sounds ominous, but it was just like a dark cloud, and I could see it moving in the dining room. So I'm going, okay, I'm chopping and I'm cutting. So I'm going, okay, all right. And so months and months and months pass, and I'm still seeing this. And one day, and I don't remember exactly the particular day, the particular month, but I remember very well, I was chopping. Again, we're always working in the kitchen, doing something. There's always something. When you feed 18 people to 24 people every single morning, you're working in the kitchen. But I remember standing there, and I remember the mist. And at this point, I'm used to it moving throughout the day. And I'm looking, and it seems to be getting closer to the door. There's two doorways. The doorway to the kitchen out, and then from the dining room in. So there's two doorways, and it's moving closer. And I'm like, okay. And it's coming closer and closer. And I stopped everything that I was doing because, I mean, it got into the vestibule in between the two doorways. And there was just not a single chance I was going to let it come into the kitchen. If I had any control at all, I stopped everything I was doing. I turned and I said, I've had just about enough of this. I'm not going to put up with it today. And I walked over to the kitchen door, and these are big, I mean, 10-foot solid wood doors. And I whang! And I just slammed the door as hard as I could. Well, it didn't come any farther, thankfully. Thankfully, it didn't come any farther. Although that didn't necessarily mean I didn't see it any longer. But one of the other vivid memories that I have of that darn dining room was I had like an ATM machine. Of course, this has been many, many years ago, that I didn't have the capability to plug it into the kitchen in the back. So I plugged it in to the outlet behind big dining room double doors. Again, big 10, 12-foot doors. So I plugged it into a very small table behind the dining room. No one would ever see it. The doors were always open. And that was the one night that I didn't have the dining room light on. And so I'm working in the kitchen. I turn the kitchen lights out. I'm like, you know, I need to just get out of this darn kitchen. So I walk through the kitchen, turn the light out, and the dining room is dark, just dark. Of course, the foyer light was always on, because it was on the 3rd floor, and it shone down the staircase. I had 3 floors. And I started walking. There I am walking through the dining room, and I cast my eyes to the side to look at the little credit card machine. It's plugged in. It's got a little light that glows. and I'm walking, and again, there's no one downstairs moving about, and I'm walking, and I hit one stride, and I looked over, and the light had gone out, and I'm like, okay, and I took one more step, and I moved my, of course, body forward, and it came back on, like there was something in between me, solid, in between me and the machine. And so I stepped back, and there was the light again. I stepped forward, and so it was like I was, like I said, like something solid was in between me and the machine. And at that point, I'll be frank, and I'll definitely always be honest with you guys. At that point, I almost ran into the foyer. And again, we're talking a very, very large house, and I just virtually ran into the foyer to the point where I was almost out of breath. I don't know if I was out of breath or scared, but I was, and I was like, okay, you know, now I know why there's always a light burning in the dining room. So from that point on, daytime, nighttime made no difference to me. There's going to be a light, a lamp, a light, something burning in the dining room. So I wouldn't have to go through that again. But I had, I think, just one more experience, just a little bit of a mist. I was sitting in the living room. And again, this is a huge, huge house. But I had a very good view of the staircase, and I sat there, and I could see just a very slight mist going up the staircase, and I'm like, okay, whatever. At this point, I'm like, you know, as long as it's not headed my way, I'm good, right? But anyway, I thank you so much, you guys, for indulging me. So if you ever have just a smidgen of a doubt that there is not life, or that your spirit does not carry on after this, think again. I hope you guys have a great day. And with that, I will say, merry part. But I so hope to merry meet again. Goodbye, guys.